Very nice to see you. Very nice. We saw a car flash past, and he then asked, "Who are these?" And I said, "Well, is there any use asking to know who they are?" And I just returned from military training, and I was very fit and young. And I thought I could dash away, but when I looked at the rear view mirror, I noticed that there were 2 police cars behind. They signaled to us to stop, and then this man came out. He then took out his warrant of authority, and he said, "I am Sergeant First from the Peter Marisburg branch of the police. Can I have your name?" And I said to him, "I'm David Matsamai." And he says, "No, but aren't you Nelson Mandela?" I said, "Well, I've given you a name." And he then said, "We know you all. You're Nelson Mandela, and this is Cecil Williams. You are under arrest."
He was arrested somewhere just beyond Peter Maritzburg, and he was wearing a white dust coat and driving a bus, and the bus was Cecil Williams. It's then we realized this guy had been fooling us all the time.
If anybody wants to understand why, to the surprise of so many people, the ANC took such a progressive, open stand on the question of gay rights, you've just got to go back to Cecil. I mean, he was the person, the living example of a freedom fighter who happened to be gay, and he brought something special into the movement. He raised our consciousness in relation to these questions by his life, by who he was.
I contemplate death with complete equanimity. The only thing I would like is to make a speech at my own cremation. I would say, I've had a wonderful life. I'm glad that I had the good sense to join the Communist Party of South Africa. Firstly, because it gave me a sense of the real purpose of life. Secondly, because it gave me an understanding of the motive forces in the history of mankind. And thirdly, because it brought me amongst the most wonderful people. I'd finish up by saying, thank you all. You've been absolutely marvellous. That's what I told my brother Bill a few days before I died. How extraordinary. Do you think that South Africa is now a democracy ruled by the African National Congress, and Nelson's now President Mandela? Lord, we've become the very first country in the world to give constitutional equality to homosexuals. It's marvellous. The Johannesburg I found when I arrived from Cornwall in 1928 was a gangster's moll of a mining town. On my way from the university, I used to linger in Joubert Park. I was quite taken aback when an older man struck up a conversation with me and invited me to his flat. Really? I'm amused when I think about it now that the mere mention of the word flat, a flat, oh, the connotations were fabulous. One knew that all sorts of abominable things went on there. My seducer offered me a drink, a gin and lime. For years afterwards, the smell of gin and lime signaled a sexual experience. I don't think we undressed. But lying there, I had control of it to my intense embarrassment.
I met Cecil at King Edward's. He was my English teacher. must have been 39, 40, thereabouts. Cecil was a special kind of teacher. He wasn't just an academic. He didn't just know his English. He was very good at English. But he was also a very human being, a very civilized man. He discoursed on all sorts of subjects in classes. He made English very interesting.
He was tremendously popular because he came like a breath of fresh air into a rather stuffy establishment.
King Edward's was an institution. It was an establishment that produced the upper classes that ran South Africa in those days.
He'd come in the morning.